those.
It's almost like the Matrix, you know, the movie where like they just like, and then you're like, okay, I learned this skill. I mean, that's what, in a sense, some masterminds can provide you.
What's up, deal makers? We just finished Ask Alex number 72. This was our webinar on networking and masterminding. And obviously, these are two very important parts of growing your business. Alex, what were your biggest takeaways for today, man?
Huge webinar, right, Will? We've gotten so much value from going to these masterminds, and we went over the top 5 takeaways. So there was motivation, there's connection, there's accountability. And if you want to hear the last 2, watch the webinar. Let's go. What's up, my deal makers? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Let me get my man Will Wall in here. I'm in LA, Studio City, where my SoCal people at. It's gonna be a great webinar. We're gonna talk about the power of the mastermind. You guys, we're gonna talk about all the things we've learned. Well, not everything, but everything we could think of. I see some of you guys that are regulars. What's up, everybody? What's up, Ben? Ben, you're always here on these meetings, man. Appreciate the support. That's not Will. He doesn't look like that anymore.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
fake,
there you go.
right? The fake Will with the short hair.
Before and after. Usually, bro, the before is, I don't know, you look like a before right now, not an after. The other picture looked like an after.
Yeah, the long hair, I actually haven't done this in quite a few years. I grew it out. Maybe last time I got it this long was back in college, and I guess the pandemic just kind of opened up the timeline and figured why not get it done. So good stuff, man. I see a lot of familiar faces kind of trickling in here. As you guys do trickle in, just go ahead and use the chat feature down there. If you are new or if you are returning, let us know where it is that you're kind of tuning in from. Let us know your Instagram handle if you can as well. We'd love to connect with you guys and connect with other people as well. And good way to kind of stay connected with other people in the group. And then go ahead and let us know what market you're investing in. If you're in Los Angeles, if you're in SoCal, East Coast, where it is. That way we can kind of figure out, where it is that you're investing and see what we can do to help.
Oh, yeah. So
Alex, today, like you mentioned, we're talking about networking and masterminds, which are obviously a big part of what we do. We attend some masterminds pretty regularly. We've been to a couple now. On a regular basis. You attend the Maui Mastermind pretty regularly. We both attend the Ryan Pineda Mastermind, the All-Star Mastermind, the Future Flipper Mastermind pretty regularly, and we're having our own mastermind coming up pretty soon. So these are a big part of business, a big way to grow, and we'll kind of go over some of those today on the call. But before we do, Camacho, I know you mentioned earlier you are back in Los Angeles, but what else is kind of going on, man?
Yeah, excited. Back at LA. This city is home, but not home because so much of the business, the team, family. My mom, dad live here and everything, but since I don't permanently live here anymore, or not yet, it's kind of great to get back in, get the energy of the city, grind mode, get to work, get stuff done. So I'm definitely in that mode and that energy right now. So a couple big wins, a couple stuff we want to talk about. As you guys know, we put on this free weekly webinar, but also mainly to share with you guys kind of what we're working on in hopes of inspiring people, but also potentially maybe doing some business with some people and seeing how we can work together and help each other out in our goals. And a couple big wins this week where we closed on our Lancaster next burr. So that's the second burr out there in the Antelope Valley. It's Sergio's first deal. He's somebody that came to me through, I believe it was social media, to help us do more deals in the Antelope Valley, agent, but also just a great person based out of the San Fernando Valley. He got his first deal after 3 months grinding with us, and he put in the work. So like big win there. Super excited for him because once you get that first real estate investment deal done, whether you make $1,000 or $100,000, like you're addicted. You want to keep on doing it. And there's
he told me right afterwards, he was like, bro, I'm a deal junkie now. He was like, I'm addicted, I'm hooked. And I was like, it happens, right? Like it's just how things work.
Yeah, it's just different. I've done real estate loans, I've done real estate as listing agent, as buying agent, all that good stuff. But something about a real estate investment deal is just different. So we had first one. We also, one of our tribe members, somebody that's been very active in kind of connecting with us. He was up in Washington, state of Washington. Now he's here living in LA. He lent on the deal. So a first private money loan from that a tribe member. He's also kind of been learning alongside us, so great to work with him. We also have a new flip in Hawaii on the island of Maui, where I live, and this one came through going to the Vegas Mastermind. So it's just like kind of hand in hand what we're going to talk about today. Somebody at the Mastermind that has been following me, that we met, we kind of interacted. He turned out that he had somebody that he knew that locked up a deal in Hawaii, made the connection. We put two and two together. Now we're doing a joint venture flip deal on that. And that looks like a six-figure, potentially multiple six-figure deal. So, I mean, you know, those plane flights and the accommodations we pay for and the dinners that we go to and the connections we make. I mean, all that, you know, at the end of the day, it's really, it's for business, but it's also fun, which is what's the cool part of masterminding and doing these events, right?
And we'll get into the, you know, the benefits of it and kind of some of the more, you know, elaborate stuff. I don't want you guys to think that that's it. You know, that's just one little piece of it. You know, we're excited to close on a deal, but we'll get more into masterminds a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, like obviously cash on return on the mastermind can already be justified. Like you said, like hotel rooms, whatever it was, dinners we paid for, you know, the deal on that right in itself is worth it. And there's still connections, right, Alex, that can come that can create future deals, you know, that weren't as an immediate result as that one. So good stuff, man.
We're going to go in detail about that, you guys, but I just, it's so relevant to what we're going to talk about today. I'd highlight that. Also, a big update for us is we're getting closer and closer to closing on our 18 unit acquisition in Phoenix. And so that is something that has been a big weight on my shoulders, still is. We're moving this thing forward. I mean, I just can't tell you guys how much learning has been involved and how much growth I feel like I've made on this particular area of like the next level of real estate investing for us just in this last like 60 days or so. So we should be closing on the end of the month. And I'll be in Phoenix a good part of the beginning part of May, middle of May, to spearhead the project, make sure everything, we hire the right contractors, that we get the right project manager, we get everything kind of moving in the right direction right from the beginning, and just plan that deal out once we acquire it. And another thing, kind of more on a personal note, you know, I've been staying and living in Guadalajara some of my time. I split time between Guadalajara, Mexico, and then Maui, Hawaii, and then always in LA, we run business, and sometimes in Phoenix. But one of the reasons I'm down in Mexico, you guys, is because it's such a good return on my investment when it comes to like services and food and the place I got down there. So I got this image stylist slash personal shopper slash brand strategist, kind of all in one. It was only like $50 an hour. We did like 2 sessions, and she took me shopping. She helped me out with like certain colors and just something different. You know, I kind of felt like weird that this person's kind of dressing me and or helping me shop and helping me just kind of rebrand my image and to work on something like that. And somebody like that would probably cost easy a couple $1,000s in LA, but you know, in Mexico it's different. And so that was kind of cool, a little bit on a side note. And then I went to the beach over the weekend, hung out in Sayulita. If you guys ever been there, it's Pueblo Mágico. It's one of those like special towns in Mexico, right on the coast. It's kind of like a hippie, kind of surfer town. It just got some cool vibes, like some old Venice, and kind of how Venice used to be vibes. And got to relax a little bit there. Also went surfing. What's the use of learning to surf and living in Hawaii if I don't get to use that skill sometimes? So that was super fun. But yeah, we got some cool things coming up here, you guys. We're gonna be having a bonfire for our team, predominantly on the acquisition side of things here on the beach in LA this Saturday. And then I know you want to talk about what we're doing in downtown next Friday, right, bro?
Yeah, we got a big meetup coming up in downtown LA. That's going to be a fun one. For those of you guys that have been out before, it's always a big networking event. We have a lot of people in the room. So, I mean, we've personally seen, connections be made in there that have gone on to, create big growth for both people involved or multiple people who are involved. So we're really excited about that. That'll be our 3rd downtown LA meetup. And I'll drop the meetup link here in the chat for you guys. So if you guys are going and you have attended before, please go ahead and still fill out the RSVP link. Worst thing is if you show up at the party and the taco bar runs out of tacos. So we want to make sure we know who's coming and get a good feel for the RSVPs. So let us know, and we'll see you guys out there on Friday.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that here towards the end of the meetup, the webinar today. But you guys, bring a friend, bring people. I mean, there's always high quality people in the room. You never know who you meet. Last time we met somebody that has a substantial amount of money to potentially invest. Time before that, we met with somebody that ended up wholesaling us the deal. They made like $20,000. We're still rehabbing that property. It's looking good. So there's connections that are made, and we're going to go over a really high level subject during that meetup, which I don't want to spoil it now, but it's going to be one of my favorite things I like to talk about. And we'll just leave it there. But we're planning the Mexico Mastermind. We're going to be doing it on June 7th to 11th. It's coming up in about 45 days or so. We already sold out sold a lot of the tickets. There's only 20 people allowed. It's going to be our own first mastermind. So that's been taking up a lot of time as well. Just to make sure we get the right venues and the right activities and the right setting. And we also have a couple of speakers that are going to be coming out. So stay tuned to that, guys. Or just check out the links for that. It's all in my bio on my Instagram. We're going to be doing that in June. It's going to be pretty freaking epic. I can't wait. I'm excited about that too.
Good stuff, man. Well, I know we got a lot going on, but we also have a good subject to kind of talk about today. As we mentioned, we're going over like the value of networking and masterminds. And, the first place you guys can network is right now, I just dropped in the chat, our Facebook group, right? So, like I mentioned, like that's a great network in there. I see a couple people in the Facebook group right now that are asking some questions. They're looking for some help. They're looking for some responses. So if you have one of those answers for somebody, it's a good way for you to kind of connect and meet somebody else by providing that value, providing that answer, that result back. So please do, if you get a chance, look in there, take a response back, give some people some feedback, and introduce yourself in the Facebook group, because that's one of the first places you can do some networking, right, Alex?
Yeah, definitely, because it's a deal junkie central. Basically what it is. You want to put yourself around other people that are deal junkies that have answers for some of the questions that you have. Doesn't matter where you are in the journey. You need to be talking to people that are in different parts of their journey too. Cool.
So, again, virtual networking is one thing, right, guys? And obviously virtual networking is what we're doing right now. We're all on a Zoom, tuning in from wherever it is that we might be across the United States. But there's also in-person meetups. And Alex, I know, we go to a lot of these meetups, regardless of where it is, where in town we are. I know Alex hit me up this weekend and was like, dude, there's a couple meetups going on. Like, let's see if we can get out there. Let's see if we can go. So they're valuable, right? There's a reason that we're going to these meetups. It's not coincidental.
Yes.
And same thing with the masterminds, right? So it's not like we're just going to a mastermind just to spend $10,000, $20,000, right, Alex? Like these are, kind of calculated decisions that we're making. So we felt that, it would be beneficial for you guys, to maybe get an idea of some of those, takeaways that might make it, a reason why we're spending this money on the masterminds when we do. So Alex, let's dive into masterminds. Like, what is the, inspiration that you might get when you walk out of a mastermind? Like, what does that feel like? What are you kind of doing? What's that like?
Well, the inspiration is something that you're going to get at every mastermind, simply because you're going to be like toe to toe, neck and neck, mano a mano with people that are crushing it, at least in your perspective, because to me, my perspective might be different than someone else's just kind of starting out and or in the middle of their journey. I don't know. But for me, seeing somebody that's like operating at a super high level is going to inspire the crap out of me too, and be like, okay, well, if they're doing that, and now I understand their journey a lot more clearly, then that enables me to kind of go see what I can do for myself and make it happen.
I agree. And right, like you said, you are toe to toe. You are sitting there with sometimes people at the table, people at the meetup that are doing much more extraordinary things than you are, that might have way bigger problems than you. And so when you're sitting at that table, it's super easy to be inspired by those people. And again, like we can be inspired not just by the investors, but by maybe an idea, by maybe a concept, by maybe a core value that was delivered during one of the presentations. So really, there's multiple different ways that you can seek and receive inspiration from these masterminds.
Yeah, and you could be intimidated, but yet still be inspired, right? Like I'm intimidated at the beginning. I remember I was intimidated by certain people because I'm like, man, like what value could I bring them? Or I don't have that much in common with them. My problems are much, much smaller than theirs are. We don't, you don't feel as relatable sometimes, those people, but that's also in my eyes, very inspiring, because they're like, man, this person, I'm in the same room as this person, that I'm doing something right. Yeah.
Agreed. And like you said, you can be inspired by, maybe the mass of volume of work that somebody else has been doing. Right. And that can be intimidating, right? You see somebody in there that's like, oh man, I'm doing, my 5,000th deal. I'm a big time investor. And you're like, okay, well, like you said, I'm at the table with you. So, I mean, like, if anything, I'm in the right boat. Right. And you can find inspiration in that on your own. I'll put in my personal shoes. The first mastermind I went with you, Alex, I was inspired because I was, probably one of the smallest people in the room. This was back in Ryan Pineda's mastermind when it was about 40 people in the room, right? So I was probably number 40 out of 40 in that room. And it's inspiring when you look up and you see the other 39 people in there, and you go toe to toe with them. So good stuff. What about motivation? I know inspiration's one side of it, but what about like feeling motivated when you come out of this?
Yeah, well, so I'm already pretty motivated as it is. I've been an ambitious person my whole life. However, when you see people such as one comes to mind is my man, Eric Hensley. I mean, this guy is like flipping hundreds of houses. He's building new developments. He's taking out huge apartment buildings. I mean, the guy is just doing a lot. And so being in the same, kind of room with him has motivated me to like, man, I need to think bigger, going to nice, fancy dinners with, Eric, and he just like covers the bill. It's like, oh man, bro, I appreciate you. But I mean, that's the type of person that I want to start to be, kind of like working on big things. So, that's super motivating to me. And also though, for me, it's like the younger investors get me really hyped up, really motivated. Because I mean, man, this person's like 22 years old. This person's 21 years old. I mean, you can get started at 40, 50, all that good stuff. However, seeing people that are already learning this information and already in these rooms and they're in their early 20s, like that's super motivating to me as well.
So I want to talk about that real quick, right? Because like motivation is one side of it. And like we said, inspiration, motivation, those are kind of similar. So, you can take that motivation from somebody. And I think that's important, right? Like you see these younger investors and it keeps you hungry, right? You're like, man, if these guys are doing it at 20, if these guys are doing it at 50, it kind of gives you that edge where you're like, all right, I can still get this done. I can still make this happen. I can still, wade into those new waters that you might not have maybe done in the past.
Yeah, and I see two sides of that coin as well, where I see some of the older investors that are, I mean, I'm 40 guys, so I wouldn't consider myself the younger guy, but I'm certainly not the guy 60 either, right? And so I see the older guys, sometimes the 50, 55, 60-year-old guys, and they're like, oh, well, I don't have the same, energy or whatnot as, the younger guys, but they're looking at it from like almost a negative standpoint where it's like, well, you need to be kind of leveraging all your wisdom and experience and all that you have. And then working with the younger generation, you're working with the guys that are, hungry and have that energy, don't have that wisdom, don't have the money, don't have the resources that you do have, right? And so I look at it from that perspective. And then also I look at it from the perspective like, hey, man, these guys are young and hungry. They're going to want to come take me out. I got to step my game up. I got to make sure that I'm constantly elevating because these guys are hungry and they got the energy that maybe I don't got.
Agreed. And that's, like I said, like keeping that edge, keeping that hunger on you. And I think that's a cool part of it. So, again, I think it's inspiring when you go to these kind of things because you'll hear stories from people, for example, for me, when I got to see what Indar is doing, right? Like, that might be motivating for some people, but for me, it was more inspiring because it was something that I could do, like you said, we're already kind of motivated people. But I was inspired to be like, hey, if he's able to take down, 16 of these, multi-million-dollar flips at one time, like, don't you think we could take down 15, flips in Los Angeles at one time? Like, yeah, we probably could, and I mean, you kind of get that inspiration from people, the motivation from people. And I think those are, a couple of the really important reasons why you want to go to these masterminds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Indar inspires me as well because of Hawaii and me knowing Hawaii market a lot more than I did in the past, and the amount of money
Not easy.
raised, the rehab, all that's super difficult, and he's doing that scale. like people like that, you're like, okay, and yeah, I could do more. I could do more.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I mean, I know inspiration and motivation, that's one side of it, right? So some people go to these masterminds to drink the Kool-Aid, to drink the juice, drink the coffee, get hyped up, right? But there's also like an incredibly, educational aspect of these masterminds, right? So I know, for example, you've spoken at several masterminds, before, and gotten to kind of give some of the, different things that we kind of talk about in here. Actually, you'll kind of bring in and do some presentations on it, those as well, which is pretty cool. But let's talk about the educational side of things. Like that's super important when we're looking at these masterminds.
Yeah, I think it's huge because you don't want to just go and just get hyped up. It's not all about that. It's like real world tactics. What are people doing what you want to do, doing exactly? I think that's something that I have seen. And then being able to ask those people very specific questions based on your current progress and your current journey is super valuable. I've also been like, hey, how do you do this? Or how do you handle this problem? Because only someone that's already had that problem has solved it and can help you solve it sooner. So that's what I mean, the education part of it, where I'm taking notes. I'm not the one talking, yes, I've spoken at some masterminds about specific subjects that I've gotten better at, but for the most part, I'm learning specific things to improve the business. And even if it's just like one thing or a couple of things, 2-3 things that you learn that you can implement right away into the business to get better, either yourself or for the business, I mean, you already paid. Again, it just, the return on investment just compounds and compounds when you really implement these things that you learn at the masterminds.
Yeah, and look, I mean, educational wise, like you can get multiple different people up there, right? So like, depending on what kind of mastermind you're attending, you might be attending a leadership mastermind where you're learning from, excellent leaders. You might be attending a cryptocurrency mastermind where you're learning from other, leaders in the crypto space. You might be learning from, different people. And I think that's something that's valuable about masterminds is when you're in there, you're actually like you said, going toe to toe, that are people that are experts in these certain spaces, in these certain fields, right?
Yeah, 100%,
100%. At some of the masterminds we've gone to, right? Like, I think back to the last one, we had Austin Rutherford speak to us about cryptocurrencies, right? And went down a complete road of cryptocurrencies that I had never really, been aware of, and really kind of expanded my mind on that entire space, right? Something that we, might not currently do, but it is something that you're going to want to be aware of. And, after having heard that presentation, I'm now much more educated on the space, much more educated on the field. And instead of, being the guy in the conversation that doesn't know what everybody's talking about, I can now kind of keep myself afloat when we're talking about those.
Yeah, it's almost like the Matrix, the movie where like they just like, and then you're like, okay, I learned this skill. I mean, that's what in a sense some masterminds can provide you, because I felt like I knew a lot about Airbnbs, but then this recent mastermind we went to and Tony Robinson spoke. I already know he's an expert. I've met him at another mastermind, but he was a speaker, and I felt like I learned a lot from his presentation. And it was not only the details, but also his delivery, because I speak more often in public now than in the past, and so I'm trying to improve that. But again, it was just like that Matrix moment where like, okay, I know that, and/or I have that to lean on, or that person I can call or text if I have a question about that specific strategy. So super valuable, dude.
And I like how you brought in the Matrix. It's like you learn that skill, and think of it like a college course, right? Like you have to go to a college course for so many weeks to get that credit, to get that, that you learned it. So it's kind of the same thing in a mastermind. You're just crunching those, college courses. Instead of going to 1 hour a day, for 15 weeks, you're saying, hey, let's go to 2 days in a row for 8 hours a day, and let's just crunch this stuff in and really dive in. And instead of learning about, Bitcoin week 1 and Ethereum week 2 and, something else, it's, hey, we're going to go over all of this stuff at this Bitcoin or cryptocurrency mastermind. We're going to go over everything about flipping houses from A to B at this future flipper mastermind. We're going to go over everything about, scaling your business at the scaling mastermind. So I think it's very similar to paying for an education or paying for a college course. You're just paying for a mastermind.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we've also talked about the, side of masterminds of connections, right? And I know you mentioned, a couple of names earlier.
Accountability. We were going to discuss accountability. Remember?
Oh yeah. Let's talk about accountability too. So, I think when we talk about, connection and accountability, right? Those are two really important things, right? So, what about a mastermind do you kind of relate to when we talk about accountability, Alex?
Well, there's, I think, specific or like there, I think there's like tangible accountability and intangible. What I mean by that is like tangible is like somebody that you're meeting with that you met at the mastermind on a regular basis. Sometimes there's little groups or pods from
Yep.
the masterminds of people, right? Or sometimes it's just people you just resonate with and they're maybe doing something very similar or something along those lines, and then you stay in touch on accountability. And then there's to me also the intangible, like, wow, I was in the same room with this person. One person comes to mind is my buddy AJ Osborne, somebody that I respect highly, basically a self-storage mogul, already worth millions and millions of dollars when I met him. And then we were like on this boat, and then we're talking about some of our challenges, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, well I had a pretty high tax bill because we made this, blah blah blah, and I had to buy another jet, and just to help us because you could depreciate a jet 90% in the first year." And he just kind of went into like why he bought the other jet rather than writing that check for that tax bill. And I was like, but the reason it was accountability is like, bro, I'm in the same room. I had this guy's cell phone number. I could call this guy. I could DM this guy and get some super high level advice. I mean, that to me is like, I gotta perform and I gotta make these guys proud of me because why they kind of were actually connecting with me and the information they provided me and everything I learned from them. Like, I gotta go implement that. I felt accountable to these high level people, also Brandon Turner, and him and later on becoming more of my direct mentor. But when I went to this mastermind at first, it was like, damn, now I know this person and I really need to, I think, make them proud. It's kind of my way of looking at it. Like, I need to make them proud that like I am maximizing my potential. And part of it is because I was able to meet them and be in the same room and learn from them. And so I think that the intangible and tangible accountability that you get from other people. And lastly, Brian Davila has also been an amazing accountability partner and coach overall, where he just like, he'll put your foot to the fire, has great suggestions, but he pulls no punches. He's not going to sugarcoat it for you. He's never going to tell you what you just want to hear just simply because, it just like you're high level yourself or you're making a good amount of money. We get this big ego and then people can't set us straight or give us advice because a lot of times the people who are around are people that are working for us or people that, maybe they want to tell us, they're kind of in a position where they don't feel like they can tell us what to do. But these accountability coaches, accountability people you meet can tell you, they're like, no, bro, you're fucking thinking weak, man. Or, hey, you know what? Why don't you look at it like this? Or why don't and you're going to respect their opinion because they're high level. So you're like, okay, great. I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with that rather than just like being skeptical about where the information is coming because they haven't really attained the success or the things that you want. So you're not going to respect their opinion as much. So I think there's that as well.
Good stuff. And I know, when you mentioned Brian Davila, right? Like he's our accountability coach and we're, accountability coaches for some other people within the Future Flipper, mentorship group. And I think that's a lot of it too, right? Like, like you said, Brian doesn't really hold back any punches. Like if you tell him, hey man, I'm going to get this done this week. And then you come back, next week and you check in with your buddy, and you shoot him a text and say, hey, what's up, man? Like, how are you doing? You go to that accountability meeting and you're like, man, I didn't get it done. Like that's tough, right? Like you can only do that so many weeks in a row before you start to question, like, man, is it me that's holding me back? I have other people around me that are saying, hey, you can get this done in a week. You can get this done. Like that's manageable. I hope you out. Let me know. And you don't get it done. It kind of falls back to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not confrontational, you guys. I want you guys to understand like accountability is becoming from a place of caring. You care for that person because you're saying like, hey, you told me you wanted to do this and it helped yourself. You don't want to accomplish this. Well, I'm just holding you accountable to what you said. And so it isn't hostile or confrontation. It's more like inquisitive, like, hey, well, what about this? Or why do you do this? Or how did that go? You said you're going to do that. Well, what's up? Did you do that? It's very like, oh, well, yeah, I did this. And then you catch yourself making excuses. You catch yourself, kind of like omitting something maybe. And then there's a good accountability coach, accountability person in your life will help you uncover like your bullshit and uncover like what you're kind of lying to yourself about. So you can really just get stuff done that you say you're supposed to do, that you want to do, and you haven't done, or maybe you're not doing to your best ability. And it's definitely going to be, you're going to perform better with somebody pushing you than without. It's like being at the gym. Why do you think there's so many gym partners? You go to the gym, and are you going to get the same workout, same intensity, same results by yourself or with somebody that's pushing you, whether that be a trainer or a friend?
I agree, man. I think if you go every time with a partner, with another accountability coach, another accountability member, strength in numbers, right? And so I love what you said too, where it's not confrontational, right? Because like that's a big part. Sometimes people think, that it's confrontational, and it's not. It really is. Like Brian wants to see you succeed. You want to see Brian succeed. We want to see, our mentees succeed. I think about John Jimenez, right? Like, he's one of the guys in our mentee program, and we've seen him, just reach some new heights, just taking into account what we're saying is working and put it into play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just not push them to be their best, and like we want to be pushed to be our best as well. So it's just the same. Yep.
Same thing with our internal teams, right? Like we have accountability, moments. We had one this week where, we kind of sat down with the team and, said, hey guys, here's what we think needs to kind of happen. This is what, we feel accountability wise needs to be the case. And, what do we need to do to make sure that we hit that level of accountability? So I think, again, whether it's you networking within your team and making sure that accountability is there, or going out and finding that in a mastermind or in a group of like-minded individuals, I think, that accountability side is really important.
I think it's completely underrated now that we're talking about it. Honestly, it's something that not a lot of people have, and it's hard to develop if it's for free. Meaning like, oh, just meet some random person. Hey, let's be accountability coaches. But when it's a little bit more structured within a mastermind that both of you paid for, in many cases, it's just more effective because like your connections are much stronger than just somebody that you meet kind of randomly. I just haven't found the accountability groups to be like easy to put together kind of on your own. It's usually within the structure of already an existing like mastermind program. But nonetheless, you should try it. It's something that can benefit you guys greatly.
Yes, sir. So last thing I want to kind of talk about, and that's kind of related to the accountability, right? You meet people like AJ Osborne, Brandon Turner, and it's like, you kind of have that level of like, hey, I have to be accountable to this person. Their problems are a little bit bigger than mine, but it's also the connection, the connectivity that you have with those people as well, right? And the connections that those people can maybe connect you to down the road, whether that be through deals, through connecting to other people, whatever that might be. So why don't you touch on that a little bit, Alex, and kind of touch on how connections, have been a big piece of masterminds and networking for you as well.
Yes, absolutely. So that is one of the biggest benefits, right? The people you meet, the people that you get to find out what they're up to. And I think that the people you connect with, I have a couple of examples of that, of stories that actually translated to something super positive in my business or life. The first mastermind that I attended, about 4 months later, one of the attendees reached out to me and was like, hey, I have this deal in LA. I don't really flip in LA. This was Ryan Pineda, actually. He was flipping in Vegas, not really interested in doing anything in LA. I helped him vet the deal, get the appraisal or get the ARV, get the numbers down. It actually fit my buy box and what I was looking for, and he was interested in wholesaling it. He wholesaled the deal, and then it turned into a monster deal for him, for us, and for everybody. He made like 35 grand. We made like $91,000 on that deal, and I had spent about $7,000 for that mastermind. So what's the ROI on that, right? So that's a real world example of like a month later, I ended up doing business with somebody that I met at, there that attended, and we both spent money invested to go there, right? Also, another example is the follow-up mastermind that I went to. And I want you guys to think like we're doing masterminds like every single month. It's not every single month. It's like once a quarter and then once a year for this other one. So we'll probably go to 6 masterminds in a year that are each like anywhere from 2 to 3 days. So if we do the numbers on that, what is that? That's like
20 days.
That's like 2-3 weeks of high level connecting, high level learning, and then all that other benefits that we talk about, the accountability and then the inspiration, the motivation, all that included in that. And so, and what that might cost, what, $20,000-$30,000, but I mean, it should help you make $200,000, $300,000, $500,000. I mean, the
doctors have to do it. It's called continuing education. Like they have to continue getting education. So
yeah,
I think it's kind of a piece of that. And I know, you know, we think about the mastermind, right? As like, you're going to see that main guest speaker, you're going to see that main person. But like, you know, with Ryan Pineda with Future Flipper, we already know Ryan. Like, we keep going back and we keep going back and we keep going back. And it's not to meet Ryan again and again and again. But like you said, Alex, it's, you know, all those connections in the room. Each of those people are opportunities to also create new deals, create new businesses, create new partnerships, create new you know, opportunities, whatever those might be, you know, down the road. And they might present themselves immediately, you know, and they might present themselves a little bit further down the line, right? There's no, you know,
Yeah.
telling when that might happen.
On that point, they might happen immediately. And what I like to say is that people that you meet in these type of environments, sometimes there's immediate alignment right away. You're like, oh man, this person, they're working on that. They're wholesaling your area. You're starting to buy, whatever that case may be. You can start working with them very quickly. Other times it takes a while for that to develop and to form, because the other example I want to give is one of our hard money lenders. I met the CEO of that company at a mastermind. At the time, I wasn't really doing that many deals. I was only doing a couple of deals a month, or you know, flipping 2-3 houses at once. Now we're doing a lot more than that. But at the time, I was just doing that. So I was kind of like, you know, small potatoes. I was small fish. And for him, he wasn't that interested in like funding deals for me. He didn't really even extend that offer. And I wasn't even thinking about it because he was one of the highest level people in that mastermind. So, but I, you know, maintained communication. I went out there and executed the vision that was set from that mastermind and went ahead and did what I needed to do. Later on, almost a year later, we had that, no, I'm sorry, a year and a half later, we had that follow-up mastermind to that one because of pandemic and all that good stuff. That happened. And then he saw my growth and he's like, wow, like you're working on a lot more, you know, give me a shot. Then he was telling me, give me a shot. Let me fund one of your deals and see how we work together. And so he put me in touch with his team. That relationship blossomed. We ended up doing like probably about a dozen deals with them. And you know, they were very helpful in the business, and that was a direct contact I made at that mastermind. But it took some time to develop. So to your point, sometimes it's immediate, sometimes you know, year and a half down the road. But nonetheless, it was super valuable to have met him there. And then the last example that I kind of want to give on the connection is that we recently got into contract, and you guys have been hearing about it, us buying a multifamily building, 18 unit in Phoenix. And how do we get that deal, Will? Through a mastermind.
Yeah.
Connecting with Max Gonzalez.
Connecting with like-minded people, you know, manifesting and masterminding, right? Letting people
telling them what we wanted to do, right? We're like, you're talking to people and they're asking, what are you up to? What's your challenges? What are your wins? And then they really understand on a high level what you're working on. And so Max understood like, hey, these guys are flipping a lot of houses. They want to start, you know, parking some of that. They want to start doing some multifamily. Let me try to find them a deal. And that's exactly what happened. And now we're about to close on that. He's going to make a lot of money. We're going to make a lot of money. More than anything, though, is these connections and then, you know, helping each other win in this business and in life.
And I know you mentioned, you know, immediate results, right? Like that wasn't an immediate result. We had met Max a couple of times back. For me personally, like I've met people that have helped me in growing, you know, our business along the way, where maybe it's like, hey, this guy is doing something in Mastermind. And then, you know, a couple months later, once you catch up to where they were, you can now give that person a call and say, hey, you know what? Like now I know what you were talking about at the mastermind. I'm stuck here. Can you help me out a little bit? And you know, again, it isn't always immediate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think on that, we're also going to talk about, you want to talk about the, you know, let's just kind of give everybody the details, remind them of the meetup we're going to be having in downtown.
Yeah, I'm going to drop the link in right now, guys, because we have our downtown LA meetup coming up here. We're really excited about that one. I know I see a couple of people here in the room that have made it out to one of these before, and these things are really fun, right? Like this is your chance to, if you've never, you know, gotten to talk with Alex in person and never gotten to meet him in person, like this is, you know, your best chance to come down and get to do that, because we are going to be there. We're going to be there in person, and we're going to be hanging out, you know, the entire time, and you'll get to hear from a couple of special guests. Like Alex said, we'll kind of have a topic, a concept that we go over, a theme that we'll kind of dive into. There'll be some networking. There'll be some open bar, you know, cash bar over with some tacos. So it's going to be an absolute amazing time.
It's a real estate junkie party.
There you go. And I just included the link over there for you guys. So if you guys are planning on coming out and joining us, go ahead and RSVP on that link. I think it's going to be a phenomenal time. And I can't wait to see everybody's familiar faces when we get out there.
Yeah, I can't wait either. It's gonna be a fun time. The venue is amazing. There's valet parking, so no excuses there. There's gonna be free tacos. There's gonna be some drinks, like you said, and it's just gonna be a good old fun time. Everybody talking about, and the theme. I'm gonna let people know the theme is gonna be about losses. So we're basically gonna talk about all the losses, and that could be financial losses, that could be time losses, it could be resource losses. We're gonna talk about all the lessons that we've learned by all the big losses that we've taken, and it's something that I'm kind of passionate about because my buddy Indar made me passionate about it. I remember every time I would talk to him about, he never wanted to talk about the wins. All he wanted to talk about was like all the grimy stuff, like the difficult stuff, like the losses, the stuff that just is frustrating and the struggles. So and every time I post about that, people would always message me about it, like, oh man, look, thank you for sharing that. Sometimes it seems like you guys are just winning, and I'm like, no, we take losses all the time. Now, we're not losing money per se as much as we're just like, we lose opportunities, lose time. So we're gonna talk about that. It's gonna be all about lessons learned from losses. Let's go.
Lessons and losses, man. I'm excited for that one. Like I said, guys, I went ahead and dropped the link to RSVP for that one over there in the chat. And then the final thing we wanted to kind of go over, and I'm going to go ahead and have Alex make me the host, and I'll start welcoming some of you guys here onto the screen, and we'll let you guys kind of share the screen with us and ask any questions about this subject. We wanted to leave a little bit of extra time here today so that we can go over any questions. I know this is kind of a little bit more hands-on subject, networking and spending money on, masterminds or networking events. So we'll get you guys on here. But in the meantime, Alex, in addition to, the bus trip that we did, in addition to these, free events down in downtown LA, we also are going to be hosting a mastermind, right? And this is going to be a little bit different than, these events, because this is going to be that 12, 15 hours of digesting content, of digesting information, and really kind of going all in and learning some stuff. So why don't you tell people a little bit more, about the plan, what we're kind of doing down there, and everything that's getting put in the works here.
Yeah, so Mexico Mastermind happening June 7th to the 11th. It's gonna be like a Tuesday to a Saturday. The itinerary is basically going to be night number one. People are going to get to know each other. It's going to be kind of like cocktails, just connecting. Everybody receives everybody's bio before they come, so everybody has already kind of hopefully done some homework about the other people that are going to be attending. We do have a minimum deal count, so we just want people that have done a couple of deals, or have some type of business going on. Just because, remember, Mastermind is different, you guys. Mastermind is going there to provide value for other people, and then also, with hopes of getting some value in return. So it's not just like you're just sitting there learning. You have to be participating. And so we kind of set a minimum requirement, but amazing part about it is like,
and that minimum requirement, right? A couple of deals, that could be any kind of deals. That doesn't have to be flip deals. It could be Airbnb deals. It could be, something where at least you have, provided some kind of content, some kind of information. I love what you said, Alex. Like, masterminds are different than networking, right? A mastermind is coming together to add value to people within your network, and networking is finding those people that you would want to mastermind with.
Yeah.
So that's a great way of looking at it, man.
Exactly. And that's why we're not doing it for free, but we're also not doing it to make money. Like, I mean, if the whole thing's successful, maybe we make 20, 25 grand. That's not going to completely change my life, but meeting somebody there at the mastermind that I could work with for like the next 5 years, that could change my life. So that's really why we're doing it. It's going to be in Mexico, in Guadalajara. I know a lot of people have skepticism about, the safety, but all that's going to be kind of taken care of as far as with drivers, and we're going to have amazing, fancy dinners. We're actually going to also be doing some event on that Saturday, which is kind of, let's just say it's involving going to another place like tequila in a really cool train. So we're going to be doing that. And then one other thing, we're going to have some speakers, some high level speakers of people that I think are going to give that group of people the most value, people that are in my network, and that I know that just bring the heat. Will definitely provide. So it'll be some speakers. It'll be, I'll be talking a lot about some of the stuff that I've learned, and then we'll just be connecting in a cool environment, that I think is gonna be super memorable for everybody. And I'm already calling that place kind of home. So that's why I want to share it with people, because I know that people will enjoy it. will have amazing, kind of connections there. And then also they'll be able to really see Mexico from the light of, the nice part of Mexico. Everybody kind of sometimes puts into a negative light, but Guadalajara and, parts of Mexico are just incredible. And, we're going to be able to show that to people.
Let's go, man. I'm excited for the Mexico Mastermind. I'm excited for this DTLA meetup. I know we got some people on here who's got some questions about networking, about the masterminds that we have coming up, about masterminds that we kind of were going over. Anybody have any questions on those subjects? And I'm going to go ahead and add some more folks in here as panelists, just so we
What's up, my man? Will in the building. What's up, Ben? What's up, Andy? Noriel. What's up, Hector? What's up, guys? Hopefully you guys got some value from what we talked about today. We've certainly gotten a lot of value from connecting with all these people. And maybe if you guys have any questions.
Who here has been to a mastermind before? Who has spent money on a mastermind to get better? Okay, Ben, what mastermind did you go to?
Is more business related. So just a bunch of business owners, 3-day events, and it's every quarter, kind of like Alex was talking about. I mean, just the value is just, it's immeasurable, just, from hanging out with those kind of people and people way above where you're at, even people who, below you, by teaching them and kind of teaching your mistakes and the failures like Alex was talking about as well. So I love talking about that. So many failures, but it gets you, it hardens you and it gets you to that next level. So.
Oh man, we hate the failures and the losses, right, Ben? But then they like you said, they chisel you and they make you stronger, man. I'm actually really excited about this meetup, about talking about all my losses, because I think social media has this way of kind of just, just glorifying all the wins and then putting everything like everything's perfect. But man, there's so many things that I'm excited about it. Yeah.
And I know you said you went to a business mastermind, right, Ben? And so, I mean, like you said, you're meeting with other business owners. Same concept as a real estate mastermind. Like you might be in a room and somebody's like, dude, I'm flipping 50,000 units a month. And the next guy down there is like, I have 1 unit, but you could learn something from both of them. And you could grow from both of them. You could create a connection with both of them. You could be accountable to both of them. So I think that's a cool thing, no matter what business it is that you're in. Anybody else been to a mastermind or spent money on a networking event before? It can be intimidating, right? I mean, spending money on yourself sometimes is one of the hardest things you got to do. But I think if you're gonna bet on something, you might as well bet on you, right?
Yeah, I just thought of the time. I'm going to share this at the meetup, but I remember my first course that I bought was like $16,000. It was a 16-week course, and I only got one deal from that course because I had such a weak team, and I was such a weak leader at the time. I was just starting out, and our implementation of that program was so doo-doo. I mean, just bad. So I didn't even blame it on the program, but now I'm writing that down right here because I'm going to share that as well, man. It was just a disaster. Like I didn't implement it. I would go to the calls every week, and then I didn't implement nothing, like barely anything, like 10% of it. And then, yeah, dude, like, yeah, a lot. I'm definitely, yeah, it was a bad ROI.
So anybody else have any feedback on networking events? Anybody been out to one of our networking events, met anybody that's, changed their life, changed their month, changed their year, changed their kind of direction?
I didn't go, but how was the bus tour you guys did? How was that as a networking event?
Dude, that was incredible, man. I mean, we had, I think, 45 people on the bus. It fits about 55 people. So I think we had about 45, 50 people, including team members, on the bus, and Alex and myself. And, that was like a networking event and an education event on steroids. Because it was like, not only were we, networking, we were on this bus. So you were sitting there and we made people switch seats every time you got back onto the bus. So it wasn't like, and there was one guy that was like, I'm with my wife. I was like, that's cool. Like we're on a bus. So you sit right here. Your wife sits across from you on the other aisle, and you guys both sit next to some new people on the next wing of the trip. And you guys are going to be all right. Like, you know,
double the knowledge. Yeah.
yeah, if you need to hold your hands for a couple minutes, exactly. I was like, you guys are going to double the amount of connections that you can make by doing that. And you guys are going to be able to do that every stop. So every stop, you guys can both come in and still sit next to each other. So you can introduce, you know, hey, that's my wife across the way. We're doing this, blah, blah, blah. Like you can still lean on that person. You can still use them as that crutch. But it's something that Alex and I do together as well. I mean, like when we're out and about, you know, sometimes you'll see us connecting together and a lot of times we're both in different pockets of the room. Like when we're at the meetup, you know, we're very rarely together because I've already seen him in the meetups. I've already seen him in the Zooms. I've already talking to him every day. So, you know, we're both usually kind of running in different circles so that we can, you know, double the connectivity there. So
Yeah,
that was really a fun part of it. And then of course, getting to see like 7 houses was unreal. Like we went in and out, saw fix and flips, saw completed projects, saw freshly purchased projects. It was fun.
Yeah, and also the private money lenders that were able to make it were also like they got to see all the some of the projects they invested in, and like Will was saying, just me being forced. Like he also told me, like this guy was telling me, like, yo, you gotta go sit next to somebody else. Like we'd be talking for a little bit, like yeah, but like go meet. I mean, these people are here. They want to learn from you. Go talk to people. And so you know, Will would send me on my way. I had to kind of sit there like one person's, you know, next to this person, and then. Some of the stuff that we do is just second nature to us, but then when we're teaching it to people and at the properties themselves, and they kind of, you know, we're human beings are visual, right? So we're like at the house, we're able to kind of show them like, hey, this is why curb and appeal is so important. We could tell you that one time, but if we're showing you like, hey, what was your impression driving up to the property? It just kind of locks in that knowledge and all that. And then some of the reasons, some of the questions that we got, everybody in the group got to hear that question, so everybody got to learn from it. Just like these networking things, right? Where you ask a question, well, everybody is getting to listen to that answer, and so that's why we all benefit. And we saw that kind of multiplied a lot on the bus tour. So you gonna make the next one, Royal?
I'll make the next one. Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do another one. You know, again, I think it was just such a fun trip. Like Alex said, it was connectivity. We got to meet a lot of people. And the projects out there, you know, Will is working with us on one of them. And, you know, it was an incredible project. And so, you know, for people to be able to see the product in person, like Alex said, we're hands-on, we're humans. Like a lot of people just want to kind of see that. So as much as we could show you guys, you know, when we do our deal reviews, like we can show you guys, hey, here's the numbers. We can show you guys, hey, here's what this thing looks like on Zillow. This is what it looks like on the MLS. Like when you're actually out there in person and you get to see like, okay, got it. When you're out there and you get to hear from our contractor, Paul, like, hey, this is why we selected this material. This is why we went with this finish versus another one. This is why we didn't do a window versus doing a window on one of the houses. You know, that's the kind of stuff that, like Alex said, like everybody in the room gets to hear that question. So when somebody asks, like, hey, I noticed you guys did the windows on this one, but not that one, everybody gets to understand that answer. So that's a really big portion of it.
Oh, and then on that, we sold, I think 35 tickets on that. We probably brought in about $5,000-$6,000, and it cost us like $3,000 or $4,000. So like, again, we don't do it for the money. It was more of like the connections and just educating people. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. Now you know what a deal looks like here in Antelope Valley. You either take it down yourself or wholesale it to us or joint venture with us. Now more people know what a deal looks like out there. And then, have you ever been to Cal City or to Mojave?
No.
Okay, so you know you can look at it a certain way, but there's nothing into actually being in the street itself and like looking at the houses there. You're like, okay, it just puts something very real to the business, and it opens people up to the thought of maybe, hey, I would flip a house in, you know, Mojave in the desert, or maybe not, but at least you're coming from a place of knowing rather than just like, oh,
I drove into a war zone, you know, like we were going down the street and everybody was like, oh my gosh. And it was like, where are we? And we were like, we're a block away from our house, guys. Like, you know, wait till you see this thing, you know?
Yeah, like some burnt down houses, just like the desert, it's a desert. So we're out there and then people are like, but then we're like, yeah, we're buying houses for $130,000, $140,000, you know, like where can you buy a house there anywhere close to, so, you know, and you know, not many areas can you buy it for those prices. So that's why we're out there too.
I got a quick question, and I'm not sure if anyone else does, but that calculator that you guys have, the best scenario, you know, worst case scenario, is that the best tool kind of to filter out to know if it's a tool, maybe a deal for in general, and then maybe if it is, maybe approach you guys, hey, what you guys think about this? Is that kind of the first step to kind of filter it out, or?
I just use the calculator because it gives you your risk threshold. So I mean, like that's why we use the best case, worst case, and base case, because it's, when you put in 180 days of your life, that's 6 months of your life. When you put in that much amount of money in your life, and you look at the total cash investment, you're like, man, I'm going to invest $150,000 of my life for 6 months, and I have a chance of only making $3,000 on it. You're like, wow, that is tough to swallow. Now, if on the flip side, the best case were to show you in that same 120 days, 4 months, you'd have on that same project a chance of making 100 grand. And the most likely outcome is that you would make 50 grand. Well, now that 3K doesn't really seem that bad, right? So when it's in perspective of the other three, you can kind of see that. Whereas if you just looked at the three on its own, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But for it to hit three, you'd have to have it go over time, over budget, underpriced, over purchase price, like, multiple things that, once you get better and better at the game, become less and less likely of happening. It gets a little bit more palatable. So that's why I personally like the calculator. Sorry.
Have you used it before, Norio?
I've played around with it. I guess a couple of things that was kind of throwing me off. I think in somewhere in the mid. I don't have it in front of me, but
do you get the tutorial, the video on it, or you just got the file?
Yeah, I didn't watch the video. Maybe I'll do that. I'll watch the video, and then
video is like the reason we would send the video out with people, because then you had to know which fields to plug in to play with.
Gotcha.
And we don't go with best, worst case, base case all at the same time. Usually, right at the beginning. That's kind of usually once I've already vetted a deal. But yeah, that helps us. That if you see in the video, we have a certain minimum profit that we're kind of looking to flip a house and a certain price. And so we're looking very closely at like how much cash is going to be tied up, whether that's our cash or private lender's cash. We treat it the same or better. We're just like, hey, it needs to make a certain amount of return, so we're going to use this much cash and we're going to make this much profit. Probably won't work. It also it'll be easier for you to identify once you kind of master that tool, whether you use that one or not. Just understanding the numbers, and then you could, hey, when you bring a deal to us, they're like, hey, I think this thing's going to make a minimum of this, and then we just have a better idea of like where we're at with the numbers, and then we could better kind of help structure the deal. Make sense for you and us and whatnot. Yeah.
I'm looking at it. It was turned out as a listing in Harbor City. But when I walked through, I'm like, this, because he wants to do a lot of the work himself. And I'm like, this is gonna be too much for you. So he kind of asked me at the end, he's like, well, what do you think as is? I said, well, let me run some numbers and then kind of get back to you.
Yeah, something like that too. We'd be happy to jump on a Zoom and kind of look at the numbers without any agenda, just like, hey, a flipper is going to want it around this price. And, it could be a range, right? Because it depends on what the cost of the money is that they're going to have, if it's going to be, extensive renovations or not, like how, because there's those whole, like, for example, the Maui deal we're doing right now, there's a possibility, like, we might not do the full rehab. We'll just do kind of just a light cleanup, put it on the market, see if we can fetch that. So there's those opportunities too, where we could look at it both ways. We're like, Norio, hey, we buy it, I don't know the numbers. If we buy it at like 500, we only put in 50 grand, and then we could sell it for 7. Maybe we just do that rather than buying it for like, the 5 something, putting in 200,000 and trying to get 900, 950, whatever that number is. And so we can kind of cut it up a couple of different ways, and then see what makes sense for your client and whether we'd be interested in, and what number we would be interested in, and where I think you would need to be at. Because it just helps you have that conversation, and the conversations with sellers when it comes about, around taking a lower offer like that. I mean, they're high stakes conversations, so you really want to be prepared with real data,
Gotcha. Okay.
Good stuff, man. Anybody else, any feedback, any questions? If not, I saw Will. Did you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I got one for you guys. We're spending some money. I don't know if it's a mastermind. If you call it mastermind, I joined the flipping experience with the Milk House guys, and so we've been taking that. And one of the guys that's taking the course with us, that I actually met at Alex's meetup back in November over in LA. Him and me partnering up, and it looks like we're going to partner up with the Milk House guys on North Hollywood, a flip that we're kind of in the process right now of getting together. So it looks like through the networking, looks like we're going to get a deal going.
That's right. That's right.
We'll see
Testimony right
exactly,
there,
like, you
guys.
come to a meetup, you meet some people that down the road might be able to connect you with something that might not be immediate, right? So that's what we were saying. That might not be an immediate return, but down the road.
November. I mean, that's 6 months,
Yeah.
5 months, right? Yeah. Because it also takes time for you to develop that trust with people and then see them execute, see them what they're working on, and then potentially work on deal with them. Congrats, Will.
Thank you.
Good stuff, guys. Well, we'll see all of you LA guys down here at the meetup in LA. We'll see you guys next week on Wednesday as well beforehand. And then if you guys need anything, we'll see you guys on the flip side. All right.
All right, guys, let's get it. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.